All right, folks, it's time for Shiny Side Out with David Dunger and Becky. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Take it away, guys.
Welcome to Shiny Side Out with Dave.
And Mackie.
We're live from the City Studios in Australia. The station has a chat room we're in right now at freedomslips.com. You can listen to us from there. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Check out our website, Shiny Side Out, for more info. There are heaps of ways to listen to us. If you live in Kentucky, FM, WZZR 101.3, you can get an app as well. It's appreciated if you do that. Revolution Radio, TalkStream Live, TuneIn.com, Radio Tuner, Spreaker.com, iHeart, Live 365. You can search for all these through your favorite platform. And finally, the one I wrote, Crowd Goes Wild. Get Shiny Side Out app for your favorite device. Please love it. It's awesome. It also has our archives on there. But please go to the station's archives for all your archive needs. At home, you can also listen to us on a Grace Tabletop Digital Radio or driving around in your General Motors vehicle with a receiver-enabled radio. That's digital radio for everyone out there. We lead the bleeding edge of technology right here, right now. All of these things are revolutions in radio. You can still purchase a CD of us for 2013 season. We've been on the air for 2 years, more than 2 years now. Each CD costs $30. Check out the info on the station's website, and apparently we get half of the profit from that, but we haven't seen any. So please, 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 please buy one. And
yes,
also,
please. Yes, please.
Yes, please, 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 please buy one. Also, while you're at it, if you wouldn't mind, also hitting the donate button in the chat room. Now, we encourage you to go in the chat. You can talk to us while we're on air. It's pretty cool. Do that. Try that. It's really fun. The number to call in, although today's show is going to be pretty jam-packed, full of opinion and news articles, as usual, the number to call in if you're in the USA is 347-688-2902, or you can just add Freedom Screen to Skype. And that's screen as in your TV screen. Solaris had a great show today, and her guest, I'm just sort of stalling for a minute, her guest was John Burroughs. Awesome show. Once again...
What a shock. What a shock that Solaris
has an awesome show. I know. Do you know?
What a shock.
I know. Well, you know, she's a great crowd warmer for us.
Not really. Nah, she is awesome. And, you know, look, the truth is, guys, you might not know this, but quite a few of the hosts actually chat and have gotten to know each other, well, I wouldn't say necessarily socially, but certainly on a more social way than you would expect, being virtual. So I think we're all getting on fairly well here, and Solaris is awesome.
Agreed. Hey, Meki,
yes, sir.
I've got to ask the question, how have you been this week? What's the week been like?
Oh, look, mate, everybody here knows what I do for a living, more or less. I work for a big company, so it can be soul destroying, of course. But
of course it can be.
Of course it can be, right? No, look, my week is good. I got my family here and my little girl and my wife, so I'm feeling good about that. And then she's started clapping, which is brilliant, right?
Yay.
And it's the greatest thing. That's right. So say, yay! Look at me, I can clap. Yeah, that's right. No, it's been good. I'm concerned a bit because I'll tell you why. A lot of things have been moving very rapidly, in the world, the news. If you follow it, don't believe everything. In fact, believe half of what you see, and none of what you hear. but except for us here, right? You can believe us.
You can.
And no, seriously though, it's been a very bad news week all around. And we're gonna talk to you guys about that. Personally, my week was okay. Dave, how was your week?
My week's been all over the place. I thought that we were having a great week until I saw Israel invading the Gaza Strip, and I've been bombarded with a lot of information this week around about the way that the two media outlets are portraying that, and I'm not blindsiding you on this one, Meki, but it's a bit of honestly a bit of a shock, and all I can do is just hold my head in my hands, and you know what, it's not right. It's just not right. The other thing I was looking at was, and this is sort of in line with the current topic that we've had for 5 episodes already, and that's the current the Fiat currency and the fractional reserve lending. I sent you a link during the week, and it was Paul Hellyer, the former Canadian Defence Minister, and he said that there are 4, count them, 4 species of aliens that have been visiting the Earth for thousands of years, and that we should be getting rid of the fractional reserve system.
Whoa, what a shock!
But it's Paul Hellyer. He's not only was he defense minister, but he's got a really strong financial background, and for him to say that this is ruining the planet, that we need to get on with our lives and get on with fixing the planet and becoming one and unified, man, what a message! That floored me.
Well, look, it's
coming from him.
Look, I'm with you. But a lot of economists, a lot of, in fact, reformed bankers, let's call them, or reformed banksters, are of the same opinion. In fact, if you cast your mind back 2 shows ago, before we had our guest Ole last week, the bankers themselves published in a newspaper in the 19th century, that if they did away with, if we did away, or they did away with fractional reserve lending and interest and so forth, there would be an unprecedented prosperity in the States. That's what they said would happen. Can't have that. No,
unprecedented
right?
prosperity.
Yeah. So the thing is this, and I'm hoping that everybody who's listening to us, who has in fact listened to us for the past, I don't know, let's call it 8 weeks.
Yep.
This is now show number 6 that is dealing with fiat currency and fractional reserve lending. Right. It's a complex topic. There's a lot in it, especially from a historical point of view. We're going to conclude it today, but it is the single biggest factor as to why we are where we are today. I mean, living in a society that is pretty much self-destructive. We can no longer afford to sustain the system. The system has failed. I think it is very obvious that the system has failed. And I keep watching this documentary. Interesting. I want to quickly share this with you guys. Think about it this way, right? So there's a guy out there, CEO. He's making 1,000 times more money than you. Okay, I'm going to put it out there. 1,000 or 10,000 times more. Doesn't matter. Now, so that means 1,000 people would be equivalent to that one guy, right? Okay, that means you got 1,000 people that are spending money here and there, they're buying houses, they're driving cars, they're going on holidays, they're having coffees, they're eating lunch, whatever, right? And so times 1,000. Whereas this one guy might buy the most expensive car and has got a gigantic lunch, right? But it's not going to be 1,000 times as much as all the people whose income he has displaced. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So that's the problem. We have a concentration of income and money in the hands of the few to the detriment of the middle class, specifically. The rich and the entrepreneurs and the billionaires do not create jobs. That is a misconception. The middle class creates jobs. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The people that have money, not in abundance, but enough, some disposable income, they create the jobs that we all depend on. The entrepreneur, Amazon, best example, created 16,000 jobs or whatever. Let's call it 16,000 jobs. Okay, I think it's more in the Pacific Northwest. You know what that means? They destroyed 160,000 jobs across America. So 16,000 people, yes, they have jobs, but as a direct result of Amazon, 160,000 people now do not.
Yeah.
Okay, the bookshops, the mom and pop, news agencies, whatever it might be. So you have to understand real economics. people talk about realpolitik. There's also something called real economics, which is what we're talking about here, right? So no, I'm not for the super rich. I'm not for capitalism as such. I'm for socially adjusted capitalism is what I'm for, right? Socially responsible capitalism.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so that's my
no, I'm with
my
you.
little thing.
I'm with you, and I don't. I mean, we're not here to attempt to solve it, and I don't even know how you do it. But
I can tell you, but that's another show.
Yeah, but I'll tell you that Paul Hellyer, his words are that if we were able to, it'd take 10 years to roll away from oil and onto some of this alien technology. That's his words. 10 years later, we'll have done it, and all those people who have lost jobs in oil will have gone across to these new technologies. It does make sense, but we think that they're being shelved and that they're never going to see the light of day.
I'd like to take this a little bit further, and then
Go ahead.
We do want to talk to you guys. We want to conclude the cycle, but we want to talk to you about all the bad stuff that's going on right now. So let me just take this a little bit further, Dave. You're on the right track exactly. So we're living in the world we're living because we're supporting the few. We're making the few rich. That's the way the system is geared. It's not for you and me. It is for the few, and the few are above the law. They're above anything. They're essentially running the show, and it is all engineered to maintain the status quo. That's it.
Yep.
Now imagine a world. Imagine a world where this was not the case. And I want to talk about two things. One, Star Trek. Two, the Amish. Now the Amish do not live in that world. They don't live in our world. They live in their own world, where everybody cooperates, where everybody gets along more or less, and where everybody's working toward a common goal, and they help each other out. That's great.
Sounds extraordinary.
Doesn't it though? And so the thing here is this. Imagine like a world like Star Trek, where you don't work for money, but you work on the things that you want to work on, because economically it is no longer necessary for you to live in slavery to your wage. You no longer have to be a wage slave, because the technological advances that are being withheld from us, be they alien or otherwise, I don't really care where they're coming from, but I know they exist. Okay, they're being means of production. Okay, free energy. All these things that people talk about and say that they're science fiction. No, they're not. They're here, but of course they're not being shared, because that would release everybody from the bondage they're in, right? So now imagine we have free energy. Imagine we have the means of production for everybody and enough food for everybody, so that everybody could in fact spend the time doing what they wanted, or what gave them passion in life. It also means we have to have a very different educational system. We no longer have to create little robots that have to live in society. We can have creative education. We can have an education that will encourage and cultivate the talents of the children. Not suppress them and press them into or gang press them into a forced labor, if you will. So now this is the world, and this is the world that we could. And he's right. He's right, Dave. He's exactly right. You can call him crazy. In fact, people probably will lock him up eventually. But this is exactly the world we could be living in.
It is.
And I kid you not.
Yeah. But here's the best segue of the entire planet ever in history. Guess what? It isn't the world we live in. The world we live in right now. Thanks for the ball. The other tragedy that's occurred this week, other than all those people killed in Palestine, with and all the other things that ever happened, all the gunshot wound fatal injuries all around the planet. No, we saw, Meki, that there's a couple of things I'm going to mention about MH17. I have to say it right here, right now. I'm saying it right now. MH17 was not a Malaysian Airlines title that I wanted to hear again unless they'd found MH370. Of course, they haven't found MH370. Unlikely to ever. But let's put this into perspective. Okay, so MH17, or as it's really known, MH0017 or MAS17. That's Malaysian Airlines. It was left Amsterdam, going to Kuala Lumpur, or KL as we know it. If you fly, right, it's KL. Right. It had 295 people on board. 15 of those were crew, and they were mostly Dutch. we had, I think it was 27 Australians with one dual citizenship, which totals 28 Australians on board.
Yep. Yep.
At exactly, from what we can understand, at 3:54 p.m., the plane was hit on July 17th. Okay? Exactly then, it was hit. This is what we've been told. But there's something magical. I think there's something very strange, and all those people into numerology are going to, have their heads spin off the top of their necks, right? 17. It's MH17 on July 17, and it's a Boeing 777-200ER, the plane. It first flew on the 17th of July 1997 and crashed exactly 17 years later. Exactly 17 years later. Yeah?
Yep.
The MH370 is 9M MRO. That's the registration number of the flight. This is 9M MRD. Right? That doesn't seem so extraordinary. They're sister planes. Yeah, that doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
But in the air, Putin was coming back from, I think, Brazil or somewhere like that, and he was, I don't quite remember where he was coming from, Spain or somewhere, and 40 minutes difference, not even a whole hour difference, in that exact part of the sky, the two planes, his plane, Putin's plane, the presidential plane, and MH17 flew, and I'm just going to put it out there straight away that itself is a little unusual. If the truck and all of the stuff that I'll just explain in a minute was in fact Ukrainian, it could have been an attempt to take down Putin, because the planes are very, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just one of those things. I'm going to say that it's not the first plane to have come down on the 17th of July, is it?
No, there are two more. There are two more.
And what are they?
Cast your mind back to 1996, and this is a very controversial flight, by the way. TWA Flight 800,
mm-hmm.
which exploded mysteriously off the coast of Long Island, New York. It was Paris bound. It was a Boeing 747 and killed all 230 on board.
Mm-hmm.
There are still conspiracies. There's still theories around what actually happened, and there's no clarity around that. A lot of people believe it was actually shot down. In fact, by the American military themselves. God knows why. And then, of course, there was the TEM Airlines Flight 3054, which was an Airbus A320, so it's not all Boeings. Airbus crashed too. And that crashed into a warehouse after landing too fast, missing the end of the runway.
Oh, I saw
and,
that.
And killed... Yeah, that was in Sao Paulo. That killed 199 people. Now, again, a little mysterious there as well. So what we found, Dave and I, in our research is that these entities are fanatic about dates. Okay, these dates, that when things happening, there's never it's never a coincidence that certain dates are chosen for certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's very important. And same here. So maybe some of these dates simply align very well with certain flux of power lines, or with certain with certain considerations from an astrology or astronomical point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So you must understand that a lot of these things are actually offerings. Okay, they are sacrifices that are being made. I'm not saying they're satanic, because I don't know.
Yep.
In fact, I think we've got a very bad understanding of what satanic actually means. There's been a lot of misinformation. But the point is that these dates are not coincidental. Right? July 17, just another one of those. Look at when people are assassinated. Look when people are killed. Look at when Princess Diana was killed, and what these dates all mean, and you will understand what I'm saying. Anyway, so just on that. So that's a very interesting thing, isn't it? That you have, and in fact, specifically, maybe it has to be an airborne sacrifice. Who knows? I don't know. July 17.
Well, I'll tell you. Remember that what we've seen in the news. Like, immediately, it was it seems to have crashed, and then the news came out that it looks like it has been shot down, and then the news came out, and you saw a phone call. Now, for those of you who are watching the video, the live stream, I'm going to put it onto an image here that I have. Oh, I have to do it again. Hang on. Un momento, por favor. I'll put up the image of... Yeah, that's right. Here we go. So this image here that you can see if you're looking at the live stream is between Kozlitsin and a militant. And the militant and the general are talking about, when... Well, then it was bringing spies. Why the hell are they flying? This is war going on. Mm-hmm. Okay, they're meant to have been discussing the mistaken shooting down of the plane. Well, that's really weird because that YouTube clip was actually uploaded the day before. And for those of you watching the YouTube, you'll see an image saying that it was uploaded on the 16th of July at 7 p.m. The day before. It was the day before. Which is very strange. Mm-hmm. So it was uploaded the day before. It had 810 or something downloads and it was removed from YouTube. Very strange, I have to say. It's all in Russian. And it looks like that was the distribution media for the media.
Yep.
They uploaded it there, they sent it out to everyone, they got it, they had it ready, and then they removed it again. And I think that sort of reeks, because on the 16th, the Ukrainian military lost a close air support plane. That was the twin-engine fighter, the Su-25. It's called the Frogfoot. It was shot down and blamed on an air-to-air missile shot by a MiG-29. Though Russia, once again, it's quite popular, they deny it. So Russia denied shooting down the Ukrainian plane. However, that conversation of the denial of that looks like that's what this was, that was uploaded the day before. Mm-hmm. That's how clear I am on that component of it. So everyone's using that as the intelligence, that YouTube clip, with that conversation that miraculously appeared the day before the shoot down, and it doesn't make sense. How can that be? How can you? They're like Building 7. That reporter in front of the screen saying Building 7's fallen down and it hadn't yet. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So now, I think it looks like this is my thoughts, Meki. I don't know about yours. I won't speak for you. I'll let you comment. I think that conversation posted about the Su-25 shoot-down was doctored, and that it looks to be a setup, maybe a false flag, but I'll get onto that a bit later on. And everyone is jumping up and down, blaming Russia. That's the entire purpose of that video. Right?
Sorry, I'm nodding.
He's nodding, but he's not on camera, right? So it's all good.
I am. I'm not. That's right. So, and of course, no, I can see myself, but you guys can't see me.
Okay.
Look, I agree with you, Dave. There, one thing I want to quickly say, though, and before we continue, is that all of these operations are usually planned well in advance. Number one. Number two, they're part of an unfolding plan that has been put in motion for a long, long time. And our guest last week, surprisingly for me, concurred that these things have been in motion for hundreds of years. Now, I personally believe it's been longer, but that's astonishing that other researchers would come up with similar statements. But be aware, though, that several agendas or several action points can be ticked off with this particular shoot-down. I know this sounds very callous, but think about it this way. Number one, we're not really asking too much about the other Malaysian Airlines flight anymore, right? This is now a headline grabber. Boom.
Yep.
Okay. Even more interesting, because it is Malaysian Airlines, so we can forget all about the other Malaysian Airlines flight that disappeared. This is now the one that's important. Number two, we have to understand who was on the plane. This is the most important thing.
Yes.
Who was on the plane? Who was killed? But now Dave will share some very interesting details there with you in a second. So who was killed? Third, what other potential ramifications can be drawn from this? The start for World War I was ostensibly the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo. Yeah, right. The start for World War II was allegedly the Polish invasion of Germany. Yeah, okay, I'm sure that, but that's exactly what the Polish people were doing. Okay, so my point here is that these false flag attacks, these misinformations, they have multiple purposes, right? In 9/11, okay, it hit $2 trillion lost. It paid out double the insurance premium on the towers in case of terrorist attack. It killed a number of uncomfortable people, including the head of security who had been put there just previously, who was asking all the wrong questions. It also destroyed a whole bunch of data because there were banks in there and then other. Not only that, there was also CIA offices in building. I think it was the building 7, the odd building, right? So there were a number of different agendas were fulfilled. Not only that, it also pushed America into the war. It gave you Patriot Act 1 and 2. It gave you Homeland Security, or the Department of. Right? These are all direct consequences of 9/11. And similarly here, while this is a smaller scale event, you must now see it unfold and what it actually will bring. Okay. It is, and Dave will share this with you, it is impossible for some untrained rebel forces, be they Ukrainian or Russian, I don't care, to actually use the equipment that was used to bring down this plane. Not possible. Can't be done. It's very sophisticated. And Dave will tell you exactly how sophisticated it is, in fact. Yeah. Okay, so it took planning, it took doing, and whatever you may believe, whatever else the outcomes are, trust me when I say this was no coincidence. This was no accident, and this was certainly not a tragedy. This was a deliberate act, okay, to bring about certain outcomes. Sorry, that's it.
Don't apologize, Mickey. You know, what we're doing, we're bringing you the news right now. So, Joop Lung, he is the leading researcher on the planet. In fact, from what I understand, he was. My Google page has disappeared. Mickey, can you Google his role? There were 80 people on that flight from all over the place who were going to the AIDS conference, and it's been raised with me during the week by I can't say the source at the moment, but someone very credible who has stated that to me that the AIDS virus itself was manufactured by the US and escaped before they could get a cure. And maybe it's quite possible that these people, one of them, was too close to a cure. I don't know. I'm throwing it out there because, you know, with MH370, you know that there was like 11 different things that could have been the case. And still they're all valid.
Yeah. Now, in fact, there were many researchers and activists on the way to the AIDS summit. That's why there was, the vast majority of the passengers were actually going to the AIDS summit. Not only that, there was also Labour Party Senator Willem Witteveen on the flight as well. I'm just trying to find this is actually from a Dutch site, guys. It's being translated here.
Cool.
by Google as we speak. Yep.
Yep. So what I'll do?
Keep talking. Yep.
Yeah. Cool. So it looks like it from what I can see right now, it looks as though the plane, if we want to go into the completely harmless excuse, it looks like it may have been mistaken to have been Putin's plane, either shot down by the Ukraine, or the flight ID transponder was turned off to appear as a hostile on radar, or in fact, it is to get the world against Russia, as awful as this sounds. Now, that's the false flag component of that. And we have to include this because there has only ever been 2 other civil planes with passengers on them shot down. One was July 3rd, 1988, which was an Iran Airlines, and it was a US missile during a hostile part of a conflict. They just shot it down by mistake, apparently. And then in September, before that, in 83, the Korean Airlines was shot down by a Russian fighter, a MiG again, while straying into a war zone airspace. Now, the question that I raise is, since there had already been a number of aircraft, military, shot down by missiles in this airspace, why would you, if you owned an aircraft company, risk any of your valuable assets over such a hostile area? They say that the ceiling was 30,000 feet, and you can fly above that and you're safe. Yeah, but not to these trigger-happy people on the ground. I'm going to bring your attention to an image, and I hope you're able to see this. This one. Okay, so once again, this image shows the map of part of Europe. It shows the flight path of the 10 flights going from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur previously. So the 10 previous flights all went around or avoided that area, and the only one that flew over it was in fact MH17. It actually made 2 corrections to its course to get it into that location. It wasn't a single one, and it used to have been a pretty, a nice area to fly over, but it doesn't actually save any fuel. It actually takes you further afield. And we all know that aircraft and aircraft companies, the manufacturers suggest a certain fuel to weight load per distance, and there's no way that a company would want to waste money on flying the long way, and that's certainly adding a great distance to your flight. So it's adding distance, it's adding cost, and it's once again, it's one of those items that leads towards smelling like a false flag. The plane is in the wrong space. Russia, in the last week, had diverted their aircraft away from that area because of the cargo planes and the military planes that have been shot down. And who were they shot down by? The Ukrainians.
I just found more stuff on Mr. Lange, by the way. So he's the former president of the International AIDS Society. Okay, and he was leading the effort there with 107 other AIDS researchers. 107.
Mm-hmm.
They were on the way to Melbourne, of course, for the AIDS summit. And there's another website here which they're very. It's a significant blow to the AIDS movement, I would say, because all these people, including the head of media relations, was also killed in this particular disaster. This is going to unfold a lot more. You will see the ripple effect of this for quite some time to come. This is incredible.
Yeah, it's something else, and on the surface, I've spoken to a number of people today. I did a pop vox. I spoke to people out there, commuters and not commuters, but shoppers, and they all just echoed the words from the news. Yeah, it's a terrible tragedy, isn't it? Except one lady. One lady said, "I don't believe any of it. I believe that we're just getting dragged into a war."
There's something else.
I couldn't
you don't know
believe
this
that,
probably.
Mickey. How's that?
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
But there's something that's even more disturbing. That it appears that the Global Tuberculosis Project also lost significant people here. Clemens von Andalusia, Martin de Schutter, and Pim de Jesus Gallery. So not only AIDS researchers, but also people that are right now, I guess, fighting or researching the global tuberculosis epidemic that's going on. And that's right at the doorstep of Australia, by the way.
Yeah,
we're talking about multi-strain resistant tuberculosis.
Out of the three things that you can detect it by, your body can detect it, and the medicine has any hope of fighting it, one of those is down.
Yep.
One of those, the outside shell is now changed. So I wanted to go on to the kind of device that it was used to shoot it down. This is called a BUK M1 or M2. Now, that depends. I'm not really up on what the militia have or the military have in that location. However, it's not a standalone device. There is a radar truck with a flippy uppy bit that stands upright, and it surveys the entire area for a number of M1s or number of M2s. So the BUK, it has 4 people in the radar truck alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another 4, up to 4. I've seen it operated by 1, 2, 3, and 4 people in the actual BUK. That's the missile launching truck. And they all connect seamlessly and wirelessly on the battlefield. That's how they operate. So a target is found, then the person in the truck with the missiles on them can tune into that hostile, and when they do it, there's someone else who has to confirm the code. Like, it's not an accidental firing. But this is the thing. Mekki and I couldn't do it. We're pretty smart. We'd get in there and we'd fumble about. We'd never be able to launch anything because both systems require highly trained people and not something you can simply guess at. It is claimed that only highly trained military personnel could operate the M1 or M2. They had used this a few times in a previous week against military aircraft successfully, and because of the Russian flight, because of this, the Russian flights were diverted around the reach of the missiles. So they know how far they can operate with their operating, range, and Russia had already diverted all of their aircraft away from this area.
So, guys, you might have this image in your mind of a mujahideen or some kind of rebel fighter with a handheld a ground-to-air missile, some kind of, even a bazooka kind of image. Forget it. This is a truck. This is a truck which has a barrage or a battery of missiles that can be launched from that truck. It has to be operated by a large number of trained personnel for it to be used. This is not a one-man show. This is not a guy on a hilltop with a Stinger missile. Okay, this is very important to understand. This is and not only that. How do these Russian pro-Russian, so they say, rebels get hold of something like that? Now, two ways. eBay? It does come from Russia. eBay, that's the one. Yes, Amazon will ship it to you. Or so either the Russians, in fact, gave it to the Russian pro-Russian rebels, or if it were false flag, the Ukrainian would have received it from someone as well. And please, and this is going to tie into today's or the finalization of today's show. Make no mistake, it is extremely crucial we go to war very soon, and we'll talk about that in a second. So it doesn't matter, who fired the final shot. I guarantee you that I can tell you who financed it. Okay,
no.
I can tell you who financed it. I can. It doesn't matter if it was a Russian pro-Russian rebel or Ukrainian nationalist or or even Bob that fired this missile, right? And we all know what Bob can do, right?
Yeah, completely.
The key thing is that I guarantee you that I can tell you who actually orchestrated and financed it. So that's really the key thing here, Dave. That we need to we have to tell our listeners that this is not some piece of junk equipment. This is highly sophisticated. It's expensive.
Exactly.
It takes training. Right?
In fact, each missile costs a lot of money, and you don't want to fire them accidentally. I want to bring you to. I've got a picture up there for the people on the video feed. The poor Malaysian representatives, again, in front of the media. I feel sorry for them because it's, this is, like I said, it's a tragedy, and where we feel for all those people who are affected by it. And it's awful, just truly awful. 80 children were on board too, and that's awful. Yeah, it makes me cry, man. It's just terrible.
Yeah, it does.
All right,
it is.
But this is the thing. As soon as our Prime Minister could get to air and talk about it, he did. In a good response. Finally, and I'm seeing this guy in a new light because of what and how he seems to be handling this situation. Okay? But what he's saying, I'm going to quote here in a second, and it's the same thing pretty much as what Obama's saying. I haven't heard the translations from the Dutch representatives, but Tony Abbott says, and listen to the way he says this, because this is where false flag, getting everyone on side, it all assists this. Every word he says assists that, and he doesn't simply say these. He doesn't. I'll say what he should say afterward. He says, anyone who obstructs the investigation is no friend. That's pulling sides. Remember, Bush Jr. said, "You're either a friend or you're on their side. You're a terrorist.
Yeah. You're with us or against us."
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I paraphrase. He also defended his use of the term unacceptable, which he used the previous day, stating that Obama's statement was along the same tone, which is what I would expect a leader to do. The Russian foreign minister is blaming the Ukraine. Julie Bishop, is it Julie? Our defense minister? I think it's Julie.
That's right. Yeah.
She said, she rang them up, and I watched the interview completely, and I watched her body language, and she said that the foreign minister is blaming the Ukraine, but we know that Russia annexing the Ukraine has a military on edge in the area. So you can't... Russia is seeming like they're talking up the fact that, as we know, we didn't like the annexing of anything. When did annexing become an acceptable term for invading someone else's territory?
Yeah. I won't say anything there. Keep going.
Yeah. So when was that ever good, right? And this is another quote from our Prime Minister. He says, where Russian-backed rebels appear to have killed Australians using, it may well turn out to be, Russian-supplied heavy weaponry. Australia takes a very dim view indeed. Now, these are diplomatic words for I'm pointing the finger at you, I don't like what you did, or I've already said we're on a different side from you now. And what he also continues to say, what we are hearing from Russia, it's hard to have much confidence that there will be an open, honest and transparent investigation that you would expect. And he goes on, he also said that basically the crime scene, or not the crime scene, but the crash scene is being tampered with, as we've all seen on YouTube. He said, it is a test for Russia on how fair they can be, no buck passing or blame shifting. Once again, he's saying that Russia has done it. Now, didn't we see the same thing with 9/11, Mekki?
Absolutely.
Right? So there's a lot of blame on a country that looks to be blamed before anything has been investigated. The deleted video that was the day before the incident occurred tells the whole story, I think. I think it's awful. As awful as it is, there is much more behind it than meets the eye.
Yes.
Ian Bremmer was interviewed in America. He's the president of Eurasia Group. And he says that if proved it is Russian, then this would spark military action, getting the USA involved and supporting the Ukraine.
Now, that's a big call, and I have to be very clear here. I don't think it would be that simple, to be honest with you, not anymore. However, it is certainly a startup to increase, if it doesn't already exist, military aid for the Ukraine by the Americans. It's similar to what we're seeing now in Iraq. Troops on the ground, 600 military advisors, armed though, against ISIS. So let's understand what the situation is. Could military action happen? Yes, absolutely. Do we need military action? Well, you and I don't, Dave, and most of our listeners don't. But the American economy needs it very, very badly. It's another shift. Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, that's the ideal scenario, right? I mean, because there's going to be an enormous amount of money to be made of this. But there's more. There's more, Dave, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. So you smell a proxy war where both sides are supporting the other people.
Yeah, that will turn into a real life shooting war soon enough. Trust me.
Yeah, completely. And that's what I'm feeling is that with the direction it's going in. And I have to ask you a question. Like I've looked for every single video I can find where people have uploaded this of the actual plane coming down. And of course, there isn't one. There's only people pointing a camera over a hill at a point that they believe they're going to see something, and then there's a large, dark, clouded explosion.
Yeah, I have seen that video as well, yeah.
Yeah, well, I've seen it. There's a couple of them. One's from the coal worker, and there's another guy just in a street, and he's pointing, and then suddenly there's this cloud. He can't even see the beginning of the cloud. Like, he's only guessing that's where it comes from. So my question is, why is there no video of the plane falling from the sky, and only the very moment the large ground explosion occurs? That has to be raised. It has to be questioned.
Again, look, you're right. This is very, very important. I mean, you could argue, and that's probably what's going to happen. Well, the plane broke up. You couldn't actually see any of the single parts because they were too small. Now, be that as it may, I do want to loop back on this debris thing later, comparing it to what happened on 9/11. But you're right. Why? I mean, again, it's like the missile that hit the Pentagon. You see it hitting, but you don't see it.
That's right. No. You don't actually see anything, and there was no plane debris, but it must have been a plane apparently. One of my final points on this one is finally 2 engines can be seen at the crash site, and I've got a picture of that. There are 2 engines in this shot, which I'll show. There we go. So there's 2 engines in this shot, and though it said actually a wing and a tail were visible a couple of miles away. And they said, debris field strewn over such and such. One of the experts said that even the floor deck, which is the deck where all the passengers are, left the body of the plane and was found in other places. But that's not where all of the passports and everything are found. So all the people must be where their passports are. He said that also though it is said that a wing and a tail were found miles away, it was a twin-engined aircraft. So if you've got 2 engines on the ground here and there's a wing somewhere else, Anita, and also the rear cabin area where it looks like the tail had completely broken off, but there's no scorch marks on any of the other debris, only at this site, which was the one that was heavily burned, and that's where the black smoke came from. How on earth are you going to find anything? Why is there a wing without an engine somewhere else and 2 engines here? Remember, the engines fix to the wings. They're fixed to the wings.
Clearly, Dave, you don't understand what National Geographic and the Association of Distinguished Engineers will tell us, that these engines will detach.
Oh, they clearly, and they continue to fly with the plane, even though they're... Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They're supported by the dodos, which are flying low in July.
Pardon me. I'm not skeptical that there is debris on the ground, because we can clearly see it. There's people rummaging through it. We've got, photos taken 4 days before the crash, which are meant to depict the actual plane getting hit, which doesn't make sense. We have an unsecured crash site. So the crash site is unsecured. Anyone in their right mind would want to protect that, including Putin, to claim he was innocent. Yeah. The rebels would want to, say that they were innocent if they're being implicated in the guilt on this one, and so would the Ukrainians. Everyone would want this to be kept solid, but no, doesn't appear to be the case at all. Everyone's happy for everyone just to traipse around it and loot through it for whatever they can find. I mean, that's awful. I saw the guy holding a handful of passports. So he's gone through all of the bodies and collected them. You would do that in a military zone. You would take all the dog tags. So I can respect what that's happening. But then the last thing, Mickey, is the flight recorders.
Yeah, I know.
So the flight recorders themselves tell only a little bit of the story. They're not going to probably show a radar track of an inbound. But then once again, where's the radar track of the inbound? Why is there no radar? There's certainly military crossover. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that the Russians are going to have some pretty awesome radar. The Ukrainians are going to be watching that airspace like the Diggins, let me tell you. So why didn't they jump up and down and say, hey, look, here's the radar track showing an inbound from this location? Yeah. I think it reeks. I've seen footage of a BUK M1 being driven in or out. Don't know what road it was, but still it's been driven around, and it was claimed to have been driven out of the area. Well, I think my thoughts personally is, if this isn't a rebadged 370 because it never blew up and never went missing in the first place, and it was not filled with anybody at all, and it was just a demo for technology, if this plane was designated to be shot down for some reason that is yet to be discovered, like a military intervention or a false flag event, it's just awful, Mickey.
It's well, I'll be honest with you. I can't say gotten used to it, but it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't shock me anymore. I mean, yes, you have to take a step back. In order to achieve the goals that need to be achieved here, and make no mistake, there are goals being achieved with this particular event, lives will be lost. And for the people that are taking the long view, for the elite that are in charge, and for the people that have been unfolding or planning this for a very long time, this is an acceptable cost. In fact, I shouldn't even call it a cost. It's an acceptable a side effect, or a collateral damage. Let's call it that. Yeah, it's collateral damage. I mean, who cares if 200 people die? Who cares if 3,000 die? Who cares if 50,000 die? It doesn't matter. You know why? Because these are extremely self-centered, selfish, entirely self-absorbed, and I can't stress this enough. Creatures. Okay, they have one goal in mind: to stay in power, to keep us out of power, to keep us dumb. And if you follow the hypothesis that Dave and I have put forward, not a theory, simply a hypothesis, then this has been happening for a very long time, and for the reason to keep us here, in this place, in this prison, if you will. So these are not surprising actions at all. And as I said before, it does seem like an event that has various layers of benefits for the elite, and a horrible way to think, but you have to these days, right? And most obviously, it could be potentially used as a pretext for Cold War, if not hot war. If it is found, and I'm sure they're going to find that the Russians were involved and used Russian heavy equipment to bring down this plane, immediately you have the Dutch, which are probably the most liberal nation on the planet, offside. You've got the Australians offside, and you've got the Americans offside, right? And we are relatively powerful, and when I say powerful, I mean you shouldn't discount Australia as a nation. Okay, and we do hold some sway in the community, in the global community. We've got resources. I think one of China's main trading partners, and the Americans certainly aren't too happy, that their citizens were killed. And the same thing happened when this Lusitania was sunk, World War I. Cast your mind back, Lusitania. Okay, look it up. The bombing of Pearl Harbor. Okay, so you draw the powers into a conflict to the point where, in fact, the population itself is screaming to intervene. Okay, the Reichstagsbrand. We've had a show, we had several shows on the black operations, false flag operations, you can call them as well. And the modus operandi is very clear. You create a problem, right? You offer a solution, but it is the people that have to ask for it. The people must ask for the solution, and then here you go. There's my solution. Thank you very much. Concentration camps. Yeah, sure. Invasion of Afghanistan. Yes, thank you. That'll help me. No, Afghanistan never was going to invade America. I mean, Iraq wasn't going to invade America. You have to be an idiot, a moron, if you ever believe that. I'm sorry. Now, shooting down a jet like that. Look, the Ukraine is an independent nation. Russia has annexed territory of the Ukraine. It's a Ukrainian and Russian matter. And if you want to draw other parties into it, maybe European Union, United States, whatever, then you have to do something like this. You have to to bring down a plane with foreign nationals. Okay, that's again Lusitania, World War I. Why did America enter World War I? Because they sank the Lusitania.
That's right.
Right, killed lots of Americans. And now we know that it probably wasn't true. In fact, we also know that the Lusitania was carrying war materials as well. It wasn't just purely a passenger ship. Anyway. Point is that this is following the same script, okay, and it's a real worry, because we are now, historically speaking, at a point that is extremely crucial that we get through unscathed. It's a critical point from an economic point of view. It's a critical point in time from a military point of view. It's a critical point of time from the overall historical arc we are following here. We are seeing the exact same conditions, and we've spoken about this before, and I'm going to go into some detail at the next half of the show. We're seeing the exact same conditions that existed prior to World War I and prior to World War II.
Exactly.
Those two, not either or, but both And they were quite different conditions, mind you. Okay, now we'll explain to you guys what we mean by that. After the break, though, we will quickly bring to an end, and it actually feeds right into it. You need to know this, okay? This is information that is still relevant today. That's why we tell you this. We will talk about the final installment of our Fiat currency and fractional reserve lending show cycle. This is the 6th show where we've spoken about this, and this is probably the most important one, which will tie it to today. It will tie it to today. And it won't take very long. But after we have done that, we will spend quite a bit of time on the point of history we are in and why this shooting down of the Malaysian airliner is so important. Again, now bear in mind that even one thing that is very interesting here, no one is talking about the other Malaysian airliner anymore.
That's right.
Because we now have this one to talk about. And the other one is a much quickly. Yeah, but that is still a gigantic mystery. It's a huge mystery. It's mind-boggling how mysterious it is. You know, the disappearance of this particular flight. I mean, we know exactly what happened here. This flight was destroyed. We know. Okay, now and this is it's a horrible thing. But at the very least, the people, the relatives, they can walk away with some modicum of closure after after all is said and done. The people that had relatives on the other flight have none of that.
Do you know what? This was raised early today, talking to one of my friends about it, because I was trying to bounce some ideas off people, because every time I look at this, I smell false flag. And he said, imagine the insurance company of Malaysian Airlines. Imagine the premiums now.
Yeah.
They'd be through the roof. Can you imagine that?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So I'd like to know who insures them. The other one is it's country run, and there's a single person or a single company that owns the other half, or the 49% or whatever it is, not a controlling factor of it.
Yep.
Maybe they needed money. We don't know. If you remember the follow the money thing, Mackie.
Always.
You know.
You follow the money. I agree with you. Who
would be a willing participant in which airline would be a willing participant if we wanted to do something? We know there was a great deal of corruption in Malaysia, and they sort of got themselves on track financially, and they might have waned a little bit. Maybe this was going to help them. Maybe some country or some banksters decided that they could have assisted that country if you loan us 2 planes and we'll do something.
Yeah,
I don't know, because this theory was put up before. We had one flight go missing, and what if another one went missing or was destroyed? How would that affect aviation? How?
Look, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, I mean, it is number one. It is devastating for Malaysian Airlines. It is devastating for the Malaysian tourism industry. It is devastating for the region to some extent. It is devastating, though, also to a lesser extent for the overall aviation industry. Because people are now thinking, "Woo, one disappeared, one was shot down. Not really too keen to fly anymore. Not really to go too keen to go and spend my dollar overseas, or whatever your currency might be."
It's also devastating to the AIDS research, and as you said before, and just to summarise, the tuberculosis research as well.
Yes, absolutely. A lot of agendas, again, the key thing here is these things happen and there are a lot of people that benefit. I know you think to yourself, how is it possible to benefit from a tragedy like this? Well, somebody always benefits. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. This is the truth. Somebody always benefits. It doesn't matter how horrible the thing is that happened. Shootings, all right, in schools, Tasmania, somebody always benefits. Somebody will always push through an agenda. Okay, again, I'm just telling you. Please donate, guys.
Never waste an opportunity is the quote from that. We'll see you on the other side of the break. Don't forget to donate. Donate!
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. If you plan to call in and speak with one of our hosts, please turn down your radio and separate yourself from any background noise and wait for the area code to be called on before you speak. And don't forget, Revolution Radio freedomslips.com is listener supported. So stop by the homepage, freedomslips.com, visit the site support area to help support the host you're listening to's airtime. Thank you. Revolution Radio freedomslips.com, where the truth never sleeps. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio. And now we return you to your host.
You're back with Dave and Mackie's Shiny Set Out on freedomslips.com. That's right, the number 1 listener-supported talk radio on the net, guys. Since it is listener-funded radio and you like what you hear, well, at least we hope you do, please go to freedomslips.com and push the donate button on the site support page. It's on the left-hand side in the chat, and I can see it right now. So if you can, please do. Your donation is greatly appreciated and helps run this station, and we are donating when we can, as often as we can. Also, a big hello to all new listeners around the world. We're glad you're aboard. I'm pretty sure that there are new ones today. The chat room certainly is full. And now we are halfway through show number 5, 20, and 100. 125. 125! Yes!
Wild.
It does. And we are talking about news. In fact, today we talked about, just earlier, the deliberate downing of a Malaysian airliner, once again, killing all passengers on board as far as we know the potential ramifications, maybe motives, people that benefit, and what the impact potentially can be as well. And now we want to finish off very quickly the financial cycle show, the last one today, and then we will also draw you a bow connecting I guess the world of finance, high finance, and this world of wage slavery we live in, with the downing of the Malaysian airliner, as well as the point in history we are all occupying at the moment, right now. In fact, I believe we're overdue for certain events. Well, sir, Dave, we are going to quickly tell our esteemed listeners about the final chapter in the monetary history of this particular planet. And I want to start by talking about Hitler, Adolf Hitler. Now, everybody's aware, of course, what happened to Adolf Hitler. He was a soldier in World War I. He was a painter in Vienna. He didn't get admittance to the Academy of Arts, or Fine Arts in Vienna, unfortunately. It was a Jewish person that denied him entry, and many things have been said about that, so I won't repeat it here. He rose to power, famously, of course, in Bavaria, in Munich beer halls, where he would talk very eloquently, and I know if you're German, it doesn't really come across too well. You see, unless you're German, and even modern Germans look at him and you think, well, that kind of speech wouldn't arouse me. But the thing is, he did arouse the masses, and he was a very good speaker. He knew his timing, and he held thousands enthralled with his speeches. So we know all of that. What we don't know, well, what you might not know, is that he was almost completely financed by money that was drawn from the privately owned American Federal Reserve. What? What a shock, you say? No, I'm not lying. Now, this is coming from this is a quote. I'm giving you a quote again. Okay, Congressman Louis T. McFadden, a Democratic member for Pennsylvania, and who served 12 years as chairman of the Committee on Banking and Currency. Okay, so look him up yourself if you want, and don't believe me. It's okay. So I'm going to quote now. This is what he says about Mr. Adolf Hitler, or Schicklgruber, if you like your history. After World War I, Germany fell into the hands of the international bankers. Those bankers bought her, and they own her now. Lock, stock, and barrel. They have purchased her industries. They have mortgages on her soil. They control her production. They control all her public utilities. The international German bankers have subsidized the present German government. And they have also supplied every dollar of the money Adolf Hitler has used in his lavish campaign to build up a threat to the government of Brüning. Now, this is the Weimar Republic government. Anyway, it doesn't matter. When Brüning fails to obey the orders of the German international bankers, Hitler is brought forth to scare the Germans into submission. Through the Federal Reserve Board, over $30 billion. $30 billion. That's in those days, of American money has been pumped into Germany. You have all heard of the spending that has taken place in Germany. Modernistic dwellings, her great planetariums, her gymnasiums, her swimming pools, her fine public highways, her perfect factories. All this was done on our money. All this was given to Germany through the Federal Reserve Board. The Federal Reserve Board has pumped so many billions of dollars into Germany that they dare not name the total.
Oh, wow.
You didn't know that, did you?
No, I did not.
Guys, look, this is what happened. Now, quickly recap. Germany was destroyed after World War I, and due to the Treaty of Versailles, it was essentially they had to pay back $1 billion German Reichsmark in reparations to France and England largely, in gold, $1 billion in gold, which destroyed and crippled her, Germany that is. It destroyed her economy. My grandparents remember running battles with the police in the streets of German cities. It was a rise, the time between the wars, the 1920s and 30s, was a rise of the extremist factions. On the one side you had the communists, and on the other side you had the fascists. So you had the right and the left fighting each other, much to the dismay of the Weimar Republic, which of course was doomed to failure right from the start. And it is in that kind of economic upheaval, in that kind of impoverished nation, that those extremist forms of political ideology take the best hold. If people are desperate, they don't want a moderate government. You want someone that will bring you action. You want someone to blame. And that's something that both the communists and the fascists, or National Socialists, if you will, the Nazis, did extremely well. They blamed each other, okay? They blamed the Jews. They blamed the international bankers. They blamed foreign conspirators. Everybody was blamed, and in the end, I guess the Nazis had the better blame game. Now, Fort Knox. Let's go to Fort Knox. In 1933, Franklin Roosevelt signed a bill forcing all the American people to hand over all their gold at base rate. With the exception of rare coins, because they're collectibles and so forth, so that's fair enough, I guess. He disowned himself from the bill, claiming to not have read it. And the Secretary of Treasury claimed this was what the experts wanted. Okay? Now, we know of bills that are being put through without anybody having a chance of reading them, like the Patriot Act, right? We know all that. Now, and bought at these really cheap prices with money produced from nothing by the Federal Reserve. We've spoken about money creation. The gold was melted down and stacked in the newly built bullion depository, which was called Fort Knox. Once collected in 1935, the price of gold was raised from $20.66 to $35 per ounce. But only non-American gold qualified to be sold. Only non-American gold qualified to be sold. Okay, this meant those who had avoided the crash by investing in gold, they had shipped to London and could now nearly double their money, while the rest of America starved. Yeah. Okay, this is a time of extreme economic hardship. Let's remember that. Okay. By the end of World War II, Fort Knox did hold 70% of the world's gold. But over the years, it was sold off to the European money changers, while a public audit of Fort Knox reserves was repeatedly denied. Do you remember that? The Germans wanted this because the Fort Knox isn't just holding American gold. It's holding a whole raft of other nations' gold. Okay. Now there were rumors that started around the missing gold, right? And now this is from Edith Roosevelt, the wife. Allegations of missing gold from our Fort Knox vaults are being widely discussed in European circles. But what is puzzling is that the administration is not hastening to demonstrate conclusively that there is no cause for concern over our gold treasure, if indeed it is in a position to do so. Yes. If indeed it is. It is not. In fact, nobody would deny that today. In 1981, though, Reagan was convinced to have a look into Fort Knox, with a view to reintroducing the gold standard. He appointed a group called the Gold Commission. They found that the U.S. Treasury owned how much gold, Dave?
No gold at all.
None. Zero. Butkiss. Okay? All the Fort Knox gold remaining is now being held as collateral by the Federal Reserve against the national debt. Yeah, right. Using credits made from nothing, the Fed had robbed the largest treasury of gold on the planet. On the planet. Well done, I say. And, look, again, let's keep going before I get too ranty. Let's talk about World War II, okay? World War II. Now, what happened here is that the U.S. debt, the U.S., United States national debt, increased by 598%, 598%, while Japan's debt, now their enemies, went up by 1,348%. France was up 583%, and even Canada was up by 417%. Hang on a second, you say. All that debt was up. Where did they get all the money from? Well, hello. You tell me, okay? The money changers. The money changers. Hello? Hello? Anybody home? McFly? The debt goes up. Where did the elite is giving money to everybody. Japan, Germany, America, France, Pol Pot. Who cares? Right? Okay. All right. So now the money changers could really build out their global domination. Okay, this has always been about global domination, guys. Make no mistake here. Okay, step one was the European Monetary Union and NAFTA. Okay, the North American Free Trade Agreement, Sorry, North Atlantic. It was North Atlantic, right? North Atlantic Free Trade Agreement. Anyway, either way, I might have gotten my acronym wrong here. Step 2, centralize the global economy via the World Bank, the IMF, and GATT, which is now the World Trade Organization, WTO. Right, you say. What happened then? Well, this is actually taking it to today, right today. In Washington, the headquarters of both the World Bank and the IMF. So the World Bank and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, are both in Washington. Do you know where the headquarters for the UN are? In New York. So all these international organizations are headquartered in the United States. I find that extremely ominous. Okay. Now the question though is, what are these organizations and who actually controls them? Now, okay, let's look at the time just after World War I. At this point, let's call them the money changers, were attempting to consolidate the central banks under the guise of peacemaking. To stop future wars, they put forward the formation of a World Central Bank, named the Bank of International Settlements, a world called the World Court in The Hague, that's not very imaginative, and a World Executive for legislation called the League of Nations. Now, as we remember, though, the League of Nations failed miserably. However, this is I want to give you a quote here. In 1966, there was a book written which was called Tragedy and Hope, and President Clinton's mentor, Carroll Quigley, is the guy who wrote it. He was a professor at Georgetown University. This is what he wrote. The powers of financial capitalism had a far-reaching plan, nothing less than to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. Globalism, right? This system was to be controlled in a feudalistic fashion, by the central banks of the world acting in concert, by secret agreements arrived at in frequent meetings and conferences. Can you say Bilderberg? Can you say Club of Rome? Can you say the Council of Foreign Relations? I guess you can. The apex of the system was to be the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland, a private bank owned and controlled by the world's central banks, which were themselves privately owned. Now, each central bank sought to dominate its government by its ability to control treasury loans, to manipulate foreign exchanges, to influence the level of economic activity in the country, and to influence cooperative politicians by subsequent economic rewards in the business world. Yeah, that never really happened, huh, Dave? We haven't seen any of that.
That's so
shocking.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking. Now, this was back after World War I, okay? After World War I. Now, they got 2 out of 3. The League of Nations failed. And that was, various reasons. One of the biggest reasons the League of Nations failed is because Woodrow Wilson didn't want to have a bar of it. He said, nah, well, America for the Americans, Europeans can do what they like. Thank you very much. Okay? And then finally Mussolini and Hitler walked out. I don't know if you remember the footage. It was quite dramatic. So that failed. However, it would take another war to get the public support they needed. Wall Street, as we have just learned, invested heavily to rebuild Germany as the Chase Bank had propped up the Russian Revolution. Okay, so you have the bankers involved in the Russian Revolution to bring down the Tsarist government, because the Tsar was very much against the bankers, but there you go, boom, they were all killed. In fact, yeah, remember that? And Wall Street and the Federal Reserve, in fact, propped up Germany, gave it billions of dollars to rebuild.
Hey, Mackie, now they secretly kill the bankers.
Yeah, that's right.
What open window?
Yeah, no longer out in the open. Now the Chase Bank merged with the Warburg's Manhattan Bank. We're all familiar with Chase Manhattan, right? That's not just a term. We know it. Okay. Now that would later merge with the Chemical Bank and would eventually turn into the largest bank on Wall Street. So Chase merges with Chase Manhattan, and then the Chemical Bank is incorporated. In 1944, the US approved its full participation in the IMF and the World Bank. Okay, so that's when the Americans became involved there fully. By 1945, the second League of Nations, and you all know it, it's called the United Nations, that's right, was approved. Okay, and it's still going strong. The war, World War II, had dissolved all opposition because the League of Nations, as we remember, failed because the people weren't really behind it. World War II changed that. Remember, when something happens, there are several agendas served, and they all, point to the final same outcome. Right? Make no mistake, there's always more than one person winning here. Oh, well, when I say one person, same group of people, but they all have their finger in the pie, and they all win. They all get a slice, if you will. Okay, so the methods used in the National Banking Act of 1864 and the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 were now applied on a global scale. Okay, National Banking Act 1864 and Federal Reserve Act of 1913 were now being applied on a global scale. Remember the quotes that we shared with you around those two pieces of legislation. The single biggest power anyone had ever given anyone else over the world now. It was America before, now it's the world. Okay, the Federal Reserve Act allowing the creation of Federal Reserve notes is mirrored by the IMF's authority to produce money called special drawing rights. It is estimated the IMF has produced $30 billion worth of special drawing rights so far. In the United States, SDRs are already accepted as legal money, and all other member nations are being pressured to follow suit. I bet you didn't know that. With SDRs being partially backed by gold, a world gold standard is sneaking its way in through the back door, which comes with no objection from the money changers, who now hold 2/3 of the world's gold, and can use this to structure the world's economy to further their advantage. Yeah? Are you with me? Forget the Amero. We already have the SDRs, the special drawing rights. It's already legal tender in your country. I'm talking about America now. It's legal tender. Hello.
And I'm smelling Bitcoin, but I'll go to that at the end.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, this is important. I want you to listen to this very carefully. We have gone from the goldsmiths fraud being reproduced on a national scale through the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve in the States to a global level with the IMF and the World Bank. Okay? So the fraud, which was contained, is now global. Unless we together, that's you and me and Dave and everybody else, stop giving these exchanges units their power by our collective faith in them, the future will probably see the Intergalactic Bank and the Federation of Planets Reserve set up in much the same way. I know it sounds flippant, but why would you not translate this out? This radical transfer of power has taken place with absolutely no mandate from the people. Zero. Did you vote on any of this? Dave, did they come to your house and, knock, hey, Mr. Dunger, excuse me, we'd like to take everything and have all the power over your life. Is that okay with you? Yeah, sure. Come in for a coffee. Yeah, you want to do that? You had that conversation, right, Dave? They came to you.
Yeah, and they said you can be on a treadmill for the rest of your life and never pay off any of the debt.
Beautiful.
And no country on the planet. It was such a great thing they did. They said, "Oh, what about all the countries? Can the countries ever pay their debt off?" And I said, "No, don't. Let's not bother with that. Yeah, don't worry. I'm not concerned. Yeah."
Dodged a bullet. You really dodged a bullet there.
Well, that had a gun to my head, Mickey. What can I do?
What can you do? In fact, these days, very difficult. Now, what happens? So these days, nations borrow these special drawing rights from the International Monetary Fund in order to pay interest on their mounting debts. With these SDRs produced at no cost, again, this is stuff created out of nothing, the IMF charges more interest. So we have got, see, this is the thing, this is a crazy, so there's debt already, right? Yeah. And now, I can't even pay the interest. What do? I get these SDRs, which are just out of thin air, made up, boom, there they are. And I get them from the IMF, which was allowed to do that, thank you very much.
Yep.
And now I can pay the interest. But I'm also paying interest on the SDRs, and that didn't exist in the first place anyway, so I'm confused, Dave. What's going on?
But Mackie, you can pay off the interest with the SDRs. We'll give you more money to pay it off.
I feel much better now, thank you.
I know it's always been my solution is to get another credit card to pay off the last credit card. That works, right?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Now, it does not alleviate poverty or further any development. We're just creating more debt out of nothing, which is awesome. It's awesome. I don't have to capture you. I don't have to pay slave traders to ship you across the Atlantic. No, I'll give you a job. Much more effective. I'll give you a job, and then you're going to buy a house, you have a family, you buy a car that you don't really want, you buy clothes you don't need, you buy all the food, which is not really food, it's unfood, but it'll make you stupid, and then you watch the TV that I provide you with, all the media content that you can eat.
And that
but
makes
you know
you
what?
even more
it's just
stupid, watching the TV.
Yeah, it'll make you dumber. Yeah. And then you go to my school, right? My kids, will go to real schools, your kids will go to stupid school, right? In stupid school, you will learn nothing. You will unlearn things that you knew. That's the world, guys.
All the new stuff pushes out the old stuff.
Yes! The permanent debt of the third world countries is constantly being increased to provide temporary relief from the poverty being caused by previous borrowing. I will say it again. The permanent debt of the third world countries is constantly being increased to provide temporary relief from the poverty being caused by previous borrowing. So I'll borrow more because that'll help me now, but then in the future I will have to borrow yet more.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I will never, ever, ever pay anything off. Like I said, you're in permanent slavery to me. Thank you very much. And you know what? I don't even have to feed you. You have to do that yourself. You're my slave, but you have to feed and clothe yourself. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. But it's the timeless cycle of the thing, Mickey.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is perpetual. In fact, to be honest, the honest truth is this system will fail because it is geared to self-destruction. It cannot sustain itself. It's impossible. We're living in a finite economy. We're living on a planet. Unless tomorrow we open up another 10 or 20 planets to exploit, then we are truly doomed. Now these repayments in the third world already exceed the amount of the new loans. Okay, the repayments already exceed the amount of the new loans. By 1992, Africa's debt had reached $290 billion, which is 2.5 times greater than it was in 1980, only 12 years earlier.
Yep.
Okay. Now, a noble attempt to repay it has caused increased infant mortality, unemployment, deteriorating schools, and general health and welfare problems because all these economies are now only geared to pay back the debt. Mm-hmm. We are living in Kafka's castle.
Interest-only loans.
Yeah, exactly. We forget about the principle. You'll never even touch it. Ha ha ha. Not that it ever existed in the first place. Now, this is insanity. If you really, really, really look at it, mm-hmm. all the things we should be focusing on, like infant health, employment, okay, improved schooling, general health, welfare, food, all these wonderful things. All of that has taken a second, third, and fourth seat behind debt repayment. You know what happens if you don't repay debt? They'll come. You should do yourself a favor and read the book. I think it's The Diary of an Economic Hitman. Fascinating.
I think it's just here in my bookcase, Mickey.
Well, yeah, you're virtual backward. Look, now, but yes, shh, don't tell anyone. Now, think about this though, right? These guys come into your country, if you're a third world country, and they will dismantle it. In the interests of the international money fund, international bankers, international anything, there will be no benefit for you once these people come in. Once you start taking money from the international bankers, you are, sir, screwed. Is I think the technical term. Now, as world resources continue to be sucked into this insatiable black hole, if allowed to continue, the entire world will face a similar fate, not just the third world nations. I mean, we're already seeing with the United States will never ever pay off the debt. Or let's raise, you know what the problem to our
raise the debt ceiling.
Raise the debt ceiling. That's the solution to the. It's not that we shouldn't have smarter spending, or maybe even introduce some programs which will make us more money. No. Just increase the limit on your credit card. That's the solution. Mm-hmm. So if you are a household, and you're drowning in debt. If you did what the American government had done, it would be to increase the limit on your credit card. You already cannot pay your credit card anyway. You can service it though. You see, you can service the loan, you can service the debt, meaning you can pay the interest. You can pay the monthly, whatever it is, right? So let's say you owe $10,000 on your credit card. You probably have to pay $100 a month, whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. That you can afford. That you can never pay off the 10,000, but you can afford the 100. And you know what? I want all that new stuff. I'll raise my credit card limit to 20,000 because I can afford to pay 200 a month. Mm-hmm. But you will pay that for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. For the rest of your life.
And you're passing that on.
Yeah, but that's on money that didn't exist in the first place.
Exactly.
The bank didn't have the $10,000. I mean, they just gave you a plastic card and said you have $10,000 now.
That's
and
right.
I've explained to you. Dave and I have explained to you what fractional reserve lending is. You should know this now. It should make you really angry. They only have to hold, in fact, in the States, you only have to hold $3 to give you 100. Three.
3%.
I have $3 and I now can give you $100. Boom! Where did it come from? It's magic. You want to go to a magic show? Go into a bank. Don't pay good money. Las Vegas or or whatever his name is, Chippendale or whatever his name is. I can't remember. Or some magician, right? Don't.
David something or other. Yep.
Copperfield. That's him.
Right.
Yeah, that David Copperfield. Don't waste your money. Go into a bank and watch him create money. That's real. That's real alchemy. That's real magic right there. Now, okay, so there's a Brazilian politician who had something to say over this. His name was Luis Ignacio Silva, and that's how he put it. I'm quoting again. Now, without being radical or overly bold, same as Dave and I will tell you that the Third World War has already started. The Third World War. A silent war, not for that reason any but not for that reason any the less sinister. This war is tearing down Brazil, Latin America, and practically all the third world. Instead of soldiers dying, there are children. Instead of millions of wounded, there are millions of unemployed. Instead of destruction of bridges, there is the tearing down of factories, schools, hospitals, and entire economies. It is a war by the United States against the Latin American continent and the third world. It is a war over the foreign debt, one which has its main weapon, interest. A weapon more deadly than the atom bomb, more shattering than a laser beam. Now, I want to qualify this. Now, from his point of view, Mr. Silver's point of view, of course, it is the United States that's seemingly attacking here and destroying Latin America and the rest of the third world. I want to give you guys a caveat. It is not, in fact, the United States. It is the bankers. It is the international bankers. Because they don't give a hoot about the United States. America, who cares? I move to China next year. I don't care. They don't care about America. In fact, the same thing that is happening in the third world is happening in America. 1 million homes were foreclosed. Can you say that with me? 1 million homes, okay, as part of that economic meltdown that we all experienced. 1 million, 1 million. Your educational system in the States is horrible. Nothing's being invested unless you belong to the Ivy, and I really know, so you can report it back to your masters. Let me say this though, okay, and our listeners out there, you're all smart guys. That's why you're listening. You're probably not happy with the world that is. You know, you have that splinter in your mind that Morpheus talks about, and that Dave and I have as well. This is the truth. This is a fact. The international bankers will do all of these things. It is not the United States that's waging war on anyone. It's not the Jews that are waging war on anyone. It's the international bankers. They have no allegiance to country, religion, creed, ethnic group, or anything like that. The only thing they have allegiance to is each other, to a certain point, themselves, and the elite that they represent.
Money.
And money. Power.
Money.
In fact, tomorrow if money went away, the one thing that they wanted is power. It's power, 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 power. That's what they want, right? Power over you. Why? Because they're damaged. Okay, they're psychologically damaged. They have problems, and this goes back to the hypothesis. They've had this problem for a long time, and it's only getting worse. Now, if a group or organization had used its hard-earned money to help these developing nations, then we might sympathize that there should be a real effort to repay these loans, right? I mean, if that makes sense. You give someone some money, and then that makes sense. But the money used was created from fractional reserve banking. Didn't exist. The money loaned to the third world came from the 90% the banks allow themselves to loan on the 10% they actually hold in an offer to pay it back. So this is the insanity. I need you to really understand this, and this brings me to the conclusion of the history to today. This is where we are today. This is where we're at. We are living in a world entirely built upon a fantasy. Entirely. People are dying now to pay back the debt. I mean, they rather pay back the debt than feed their children, or improve healthcare, or whatever it might be. But it's money that did not even exist. I mean, if somebody goes in and offers their own hard work to build a school or a hospital, you respect that, right? And you probably want to pay them as well. Okay, you have now contributed, I don't know, a years of your labor, 1 year worth of your life to help these people. That's a real thing, right? That's real value. Yep. Or maybe you send them food, like real stuff, right? Or maybe you send them machinery, whatever it might be, right? What happened here, though, is they sent you a whole bunch of zeros in virtual space that didn't exist in the first place. It is astonishing that we have not yet forbidden, prohibited, torn down, burned it, blown up the fractional reserve lending system. It is a system that must fail. It is no longer reflecting any economic reality. It is no longer reflecting goods and services. It is there just to serve itself.
And it's doomed to fail because it can only survive on there being more debt created. Correct.
In fact, if ever the debt is repaid, the system will collapse because all the money will disappear. Because that's what you're not holding money, you're holding promissory notes. Okay, promissory notes
in an agreement with your lender.
Yeah, this is worth $100. I promise you. I'll pay back the debt. Yeah, sure you will. Nobody wants the debt to be repaid ever. And that's why the system is set up that way. I mean, it's set up so you can't repay it. Right? These special drawing rights, right? The SDRs. I mean, they're now being used to pay debt, but you get charged interest on those things as well. That's why people talk about debt forgiveness, right? And in fact, some countries have taken the radical step of nationalizing industry and saying, you know what? I don't owe you anything. I don't have any debt. You know who did that? Venezuela did that. And you know how much they loved Hugo Chavez. He was the hero for the bankers. No, he was not. They hated him, right? And with a passion, he was a fascist. He was a communist. He was every ism that you can imagine. Except, no, he wasn't. Okay. So whenever in fact, that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. I want to see debt forgiven. I want to see debt disappear, because it means nothing. It is just destructive. We have to start again. We have to start fresh. But the unfortunate truth is, though, the only way for that to happen, that the bankers will allow, is if there's a war. Once there's a war where lots of us die and lots of real estate is destroyed, that they can then cheaply buy up, they will own everything. The next war will see them own everything. They own a lot now, make no mistake. The next war, they will own everything. And after the next war, there will be a world government. Because we can't allow this kind of war to happen again.
Yeah.
You know who's going to be in charge? They're going to be in charge. And this is when they're going to tattoo you, or they're going to chip you, or whatever they're going to do. They're going to do something for you, and you will be cattle for the rest of your life. The war will come.
World government.
Yeah, and this is where we are tying it today's show as well. What Dave talked about, the excellent research he did there into the flight that was shot down. This could very well be the opening salvo. I mean, this could very well be the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the sinking of the Lusitania, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, whatever you want to call it, right? It could be any of those. The assassination
of the brother, wasn't it, for North Korea, or was it Korean War or the Vietnamese War? I forget which one now. Each of them. Each war. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. The Gulf of Tonkin incident.
That's right. The Tonkin. That's right.
That brought U.S. and anyway. But the point is, but that's the thing, right? Because the people, you know what the people don't want? Conflict, war. That's what people they don't really want it, unless you have been able to have them live in an environment of constant conflict from the time they were born, like you see in the Gaza Strip, the permanent refugee camps that you have now, right? And the Palestinians, they were born that way, they were brought up that way, and same in Lebanon. And people that know nothing else, people that have always grown up in conflict and poverty, that's their normal. That's how we are. Thank you very much. But regular folk that grew up, I guess, with a relatively, sane childhood that didn't have constant violence and death. They don't want conflict. I just want to live my life. You want to live your life. We all want to live our lives and be left in peace. Thank you very much. I just want to, follow my dreams and aspirations, as does Dave, as do you, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But you're not allowed to do that. We can no longer allow you to do that. The elite will crush you. You want to imagine the future of the human race? I'll tell you what it is. I'm sorry. It's actually, the quote is, you want to imagine a future. It's a boot stomping on a human face forever. 1984, as dystopian as it is, it holds a lot of truth in how they envision the future. Because again, they are going to be okay. They are going to be okay. You're not going to be okay. They are going to be okay. And resistance at that point will become impossible. In fact, I fear for us. In our continued evolution as beings, or imprisonment on this particular planet, if that happens, and we have no chance for the mystery schools to survive, for the ancient knowledge of the Cathars and so forth to survive, of what actually is going on, then we have no chance of actually getting out of here. We have no chance of ever escaping this. This could be a perpetual prison for us. It's been here for a long time, make no mistake, but by doing all of these things and keeping us spiritually crippled, is what they do, then truly we are bang out of luck. Can't really say the other word. So I tell you, it is a very imminent, very real thing. It's not something that Dave and I make up or talk about lightly. Now, Dave and I want to talk about the situation that we're in at this critical point in time, which is reflective of the situations prior to World War I and World War II, right, Dave? So I mean, that's really where we're at.
That's right.
We have, prior to World War I, very quickly, we had the demise of an old imperial power, England, right, Dave?
Yep.
And the ascent of a new imperial power, Germany. Germany was building a modern fleet, and was economically powerful. It really came out of the Industrial Revolution well. It was big and strong militarily as well as economically. England was losing grasp, I guess, to some extent, on its empire. We have. We see the clinging onto power that they were trying to undertake, the constant wars, the Boer Wars in South Africa, the constant uprisings in India. So it was a problem. It was a big problem for the UK, for the Great British Empire. But Germany was coming up, so there was tension. There was a lot of secret treaties, right? The Russians had treaties with the French, and the French had treaties with the English, and the Russians also had treaties with Serbia and so on. And the Germans were in league with the Austrians. So you had a lot of old empires. Now, oddly enough, you also had, the Turks also had an alliance with the Germans. So you had a whole bunch of secret alliances, right? And one of the things that came out of World War I was that no more secret alliances. Hence the League of Nations, bring it all out in the open. It failed, but anyway, the point is though that the same situation exists today. You say, what do you mean by that? That's not true. Yes, it is. You've got an old imperial power that's waning, that's losing grasp of its power base, and you've got a rising imperial power.
Yes.
What are you talking about, Maggie? That's crazy. Now, Dave, who do you think the waning imperial power is?
The US.
Correct, sir. You've got, and in fact, much quicker did they lose their power than the British Empire. Maybe because times have changed and things move faster. I don't know, right? But certainly, America has lost a lot of its economic power. The only thing that's really propping it up right now is its a military power. But it's so deep in debt. It is so deep in debt that it's almost impossible to imagine a way out, unless there's some magic miracle that happens economically. They have some kind of thing that they invent, and everybody needs 5 of them. But I can't see it. So you've got this American power that is very much on the downturn, and you've got the rising power of the Chinese.
Yes.
And the Chinese have something that the Americans no longer have. The Chinese are actively building their middle class, because the Chinese understand, believe it or not, that jobs and wealth is created by the middle class. And the Chinese have a very different work ethic. They've got a very different historical outlook, and they look at the long term as well. Americans not so much anymore. So you have this constant pushing and pulling, this constant tension between America and China, which has not yet expressed itself in direct and hot military action. It may, though. It may in the future. And you look at all the things that are happening, on the fringes. You see military movements, economic decisions, cooperation, expelling of diplomats, this, that, and the other, and also the way that both America and China are trying to insinuate themselves into the world sphere. I mean, America is making a last-ditch attempt to hold on to all of the resource areas of the world. I mean, do you think they really invaded Afghanistan and Iraq because they wanted to hunt down Osama bin Laden? Really? I'm sorry. What happened on 9/11 was horrible, but you will not mobilize a nation's army to find one dude. Okay, you will not. It doesn't happen. And neither Afghanistan nor Iraq posed any imminent threat to the United States. Okay, in fact, you probably have more of a threat scenario now than you ever had before.
That's right.
Especially with Iraq breaking up, right? So that's the problem. This is the problem. You have that situation, right? And the Chinese are a bit smarter. They're actually trying to buy their way into economies, especially Africa and Latin America as well. They come and build up the infrastructure. They start mining operations and so forth, and bring foreign aid. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yeah, Dave. We may just maybe the money creation from an economist's point of view, or actually, there's one thing we want to share with you. Toward the end, but the thing is this. So that's one situation prior to World War I. So you have that, and you also have the rise and fall of new ideologies. Okay, and by ideology here I mean technology. Technology has become a new ideology. Okay, it is really replacing religion to some extent, and we had the same thing prior to World War I. Where you had the rise of communism and fascism as that replaced nationalism as the dominant form of I guess ideology. These days, I guess it's the technocrats that are replacing, I guess, what we had, like capitalism and communism and so forth. It is the technocratic age we're entering, which is a huge game changer. Now, what happened prior to World War II? Prior to World War II, massive economic depression. Wealth was concentrated in the hands of the few. Unemployment was rampant, not just in Germany, but of course America was suffering from the Great Depression. It was a horrible economic situation. And you had the rise of the left and the right, massively, okay, massively. And today, we have gigantic economic problems. Unemployment is almost comparable to levels prior to World War II. Okay, you have people that in fact can no longer afford to live, even if they've got 3 or 4 jobs. We see the active destruction of the middle class. Okay, we're seeing people going hungry, living in the streets. In Sydney, Australia, we see it a lot more people in the street. In America, a lot more people in the street. Forget about the third world nations, where you've got gigantic ghettos and slums where people have no hope of ever getting out. Okay, so economically speaking, food supply as well is horrible for most people. Most people in the world don't have water. Don't have access to clean water. That's most people. I mean, not the West, but most people who don't live in the West, in fact, don't have access to clean water.
Hey,
so
Mickey,
that's a real
Mickey,
problem.
During the week, there was one of the cities in America declared. This was one of the owners of one of the controlling people said people don't have the right to water.
Yeah,
it's not a right. So what? So that's crazy. That's crazy talk, right?
Well, and you're right. But see, one of the first things the IMF or the World Bank demand is the privatization of all utilities. Okay, as soon as you owe and they come in to your country, they take away the public utilities and privatize them, which in South America, by the way, almost led to war. Or civil war, because they brought up the water prices to so high that the people couldn't afford it anymore, and they quickly brought them down again. But the point is, this is the game plan, sir. The game plan is to do all these things. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if one day they would tax you for air, tax you for gravity. Right? You joke about it, but you know what? If somebody can make money out of it, they will find a way to do so. So this is the problem. So we have this horrible economic situation, and you're right. I mean, water. In fact, water is the one resource that will be the game changer. Forget about oil. Forget about coal. Forget about uranium. Who cares? Water. Because you know how long you can live without water? Not very long. That's how long. Not very long at all. Okay. Air is the next thing. Right. Again, I can see that air will become a commodity as well that people want to buy. Bottled water. Nobody would have thought to buy bottled water 50 years ago. Oh, are you crazy? I'm going down the creek and drink from there. What are you talking about, bottled water?
You can't drink from there now, Mickey. It's poison.
Boom! Right there, sir. That's it.
Good luck with that.
Exactly right. So you have these situations that existed prior to World War I as well as prior to World War II. Right now, you also have a lot of money concentrated in the hands of the few, which is never a good thing. Why is that? Well, we spoke about this. I think, Dave, you and I. But just because, and I think we said this earlier, just because you earn 1,000 times more than everybody else doesn't mean you spend 1,000 times more. Does it? No, it doesn't. We said that at the beginning of the show. So you've got a lot more money, but guess what? You're sitting on it. You're not spending it.
And you pay less tax too.
Correct. Whereas the 1,000 people you just made redundant would have spent it for all kinds of things. Keeping the economy going. Keeping the economy going, right? Big business or big money does not create jobs. The middle class creates jobs. That's who creates jobs.
Yeah.
So we have all these. So now the only way for America specifically to come out of this crisis is with a war. You say, oh, well, nobody wins in a war, Mickey. War's horrible. Yeah, war's horrible. But you know who wins? The bankers, the money people. That's who wins, because guess what? They give money to everybody. Yes. Have you listened to anything we've said for the past 10 weeks? I hope so. Because they give money to everybody. They give money to everybody. They don't care who wins. It's irrelevant. Why? Because they control both sides. Or if there are 4 sides, they control 4 sides. If there are 10 players, they control all 10 players. And you know what happens to people that get in the way? They die. They die. Okay? That's the problem. That's the problem. They die. And we had Olle here last week, and he told us that his research has shown that there seems to be a group of assassins that do these things, like this one particular group, right? Same MO for everything. So how can you fight this kind of thing? Well, with difficulty. But there's still more of us than of them. The problem with us is we believe most of the stuff that we see in the media. We believe most of the stuff that we're being told. And we think, truly we think that this is the way the world is. This is the life we have to live. This is it. Because we don't know any better, and we've been taught this is what it is, right? You would not question a bank's existence, would you? But you should. Why do we need banks?
I question their profit.
Yeah, but Dave, fundamentally, why do we need banks?
We don't.
Truly, why? Well, we don't need banks.
We don't. Honestly, we don't. We don't need the federal banks. We don't need the central banks. we could independently, like the other Lincoln and JFK said, we could print our own money and be prosperous.
Yes. Absolutely. In fact, if we all had jobs that meant something, now the problem of us, of course, is that most of us have virtual jobs, right? And I'm not saying we're parasites, but certainly the work that we do is not easily quantifiable, and we don't actually produce anything we could easily exchange for goods and services, right? If you're a plumber, that's cool. If you got any kind of, any kind of trade or craft, you're okay. You know, if you're a primary producer of goods and of goods rather, you know, food and so forth, then you're okay. If you're like Dave and I working in IT, it's a lot harder to put your thumb on exactly what it is you're doing, right? If you're a politician or bureaucrat or anything, then you're a parasite. And a banker, you're a parasite. Now, I'm not saying these people aren't working hard that work in banks, but they don't add any value. True. They don't add any value. In fact, it's taken away value, because the more money there is out there, the more debt there is. Because it's the same. Money and debt is the same. Okay, you understand this now? There's no benefit in creating more money, because you're just increasing the level of your debt. So how do you fight this? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Dave, sorry, you said you wanted to keep the lines open after the show. Look.
Yeah. So look, I've got permission from
cool.
our producer to open the lines up, probably for a historical first time on our show.
Yeah.
We're going to keep the lines open after the break, so hold on. I'll still have the server, and I'll open it up, and we welcome all the calls, of course. Just make sure you have isolate yourself from noise, and don't have the radio on when you call in. Okay,
yeah.
So
look,
after the break.
Yeah, this is really important, okay? This is really, really very important stuff, guys, because, again, this is one of the pillars of control. This is one of the strongest pillars of control, and this is one of the strongest pillars of control because we've taken it as a given. We've accepted it. This is what life is like. Boom. End of story. If you lived in Nazi Germany, if Germany had won the war, let's say, for argument's sake, and this was, the same timeline, you would accept the non-existence of Jews as a way of life, because that's the way it is. In fact, you probably wouldn't even know there ever were such a thing as Jews. Right? If Hitler had been able to fulfill his plans, right? But this is the same thing. We are here now, where we're living in a world that this is how it is. We accept it. No, well, you shouldn't. You should form cooperatives with your neighbors. You should start seed saving if you can, living in the country, right? I really have no hope for you guys in the big cities. I'm sorry, there's nothing good I can tell you. Start your own garden on top of your skyscraper is all I can say, right? Move away from the big cities, what I'd say to you. The big cities hold no future for us as a human race. There isn't. Because the system is too intricate and too prone to failure for the big cities to survive. It doesn't take much for it to fall apart. It takes a lot for it to keep going. There's a sticker that a lot of trucks have. Without trucks, Australia stops. That's exactly true. That's for the world though as well. If our transportation system fails, the world stops. Okay, right. If our infrastructure in that sense fails, no food is shipped, and that's really the most important thing. Food and goods, food and all kinds of tradable goods need to be shipped around the world for this whole thing to work. Because a lot of countries don't make this stuff anymore, right? I guarantee you, in winter, there are no mangoes growing in Europe, none, zero. So they come from somewhere else, right? So you look where your produce comes from. Look at where things are made. Look where things are made. Most of the things that you consume these days are not made in Australia. They're also not made in the States. When I go away, and I go away a lot for work, I try to find souvenirs that are made in the place where I'm in. Texas, for example, right? You know how hard that is?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how hard that is? Everything is made in China, which is fine. I mean, the Chinese make it cheap. I get it. I understand the economics of it, but I also understand the ramifications and the future problems this creates. Okay, I understand. Trust me, I really do. I get it. But hardly anything is made anywhere anymore. Like China, Bangladesh, India, so forth. The cheap places of the world. And you think you're helping those guys? No, you're not. You're just delaying the inevitable, because their standard of living will rise to a point where it's no longer economically viable to produce in those countries. We're already seeing it. India's becoming expensive as a country to outsource to, or to offshore your work to. It is, because people expect a certain amount of money to be paid. It becomes economically unviable. So we're already seeing the ramifications, and we are just seeing the active destruction of the middle class. Because again, Dave and I have spoken about this. Who's going to pay for the goods and services that you've offshored? Nobody, because there's nobody left with any money because you've taken their jobs away. Boom!
That's
what are
right.
you going to do? Not a lot. Anyway, I want you to think about that. Dave, there are a couple of articles we're going to probably post online for you. There's one article which is called "The Entire Fiat Money System is Bankrupt: Demise of the Global U.S. Fiat Dollar Reserve Currency" by Matthias Cheng. It was written in 2013, and he says, the entire system is doomed to failure. It cannot go on. It's a very interesting article, and the guy is an economist. So I would suggest I'm going to put it into the chat, but it'll be on our website as well. But read it for yourselves.
I saw the IMF talking, just while you're typing, I saw the IMF talking about the prospects for 2014 and 15. And what was disturbing was their body language. They were looking down. They weren't positive throughout their statements, but their statements only had the hope that things were going to get better. Not we're on track, we're doing the right thing, it's all going well, we see a turnaround, or sorry, we are looking at the current turnaround leading us into prosperity. Nothing. It was we hope it gets better, and because they're staring at their own demise.
Yeah.
That's
and
it.
There's the music.
Yep. Now,
thanks guys.
Thank you. So look, we're going to keep the lines open. We're going to open it to the floor for about 30 minutes. So our producers let us do it. So if you're a fan of the show, hang on, call in, go to freedomslips.com, jump in the chat room, and get all the instructions from there, okay? So hang on till after the break.
Revolution Radio.
Hi, this is Bo.
And this is Rocco.
And the Bo and Rocco Show is here to offer insight into legal and lawful remedies. Our goal is to remain free and help others remain free in an ever-increasing police-like state. With the help of our guests, we try to answer questions such as what went wrong and what can we do about it.
So tune into Revolution Radio at www.freedomslips.com Wednesday nights, 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to listen to the Bo and Rocco Show.
You don't need to expect us.
We're already here.
Revolution Radio.
These guys are hammers. And to hammers, everything looks like nails.
I heard that.
You were meant to. So you see something that's important, you call it out. We'll make it happen.
Okay. Mother Nature is a serial killer. No one's better, more creative. Like all serial killers, she can't help the urge to want to get caught. What good are all those brilliant crimes if no one takes the credit? So she leaves crumbs. Now the hard part is seeing the crumbs for the clues they are. Sometimes the thing you thought was the most brutal aspect turns out to be the chink in its armor. And she loves disguising her weaknesses as strengths.
If you can fight, fight.
Hello? Is there anyone out there hearing this?
Help each other.
Mexico City has been declared complete loss.
Be prepared for anything. Our war has just begun.
We are the hammers, and we are the nails. The world stands upon the precipice of total insanity, and we need you, and we hope you need us, bringing information, news, and as much truth as we can eke out before Mother Nature turns us to crumbs. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, working to become millions of voices singing in unison to bring the sanity back home.
I'm Benjamin.
And I'm Jasmine.
We are inner tour guides with black belts in the art of self-awareness and how to live a passionate life.
We love talking with you about what you have and what you want.
More importantly, we want to explore with you how to bridge the gap between that wanting and bring it right back to the having.
So what are your hopes, dreams, and desires?
Is it money, love, success, health, wealth, or something even more specific?
Let us guide you through the exciting adventure of turning what you want into what you have.
Come join in the conversation on our show, The Inner Revolution.
We look forward to exploring with you.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Listening to Journeys with JP, Tuesdays on Revolution Radio at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, with a variety of guests, each giving their unique perspective on their journey through to the now. Journeys offers you, the listener, a chance to share that perspective. Join me, JP, on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Revolution Radio, simulcast with Wolf Spirit Radio.
Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You're listening to Shiny Side Out with David Meckie. This is a special overtime edition. I think we're going to go for 30 minutes or so. So if you're listening, you can call in on 347-688-2902 or add Freedom Screen. Really appreciate the calls. We'd like to. We're offering two topics to everyone. One is fractional reserve lending, anything to do with the money system. Or trending it out, and the other one is the MH17, which we spent a good deal of the show, half a show on that as well. So we've got two people on the call at the moment. Besides Meckie and myself, we have the hijacker, and my hat goes off to this man. He's certainly a trooper, and we have Tammy as well. So welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard, guys. Very nice to have you.
Unmuting would be awesome.
Yeah, great show, Dave and Meckie. Very professional, very international. In fact, I was looking at the content of your show. I hope my audio is coming through good, right?
It's perfect.
Yeah, you're coming great.
And so I don't normally do this, but I just had to check to see what kind of numbers you were pulling, ratings. You hit in the top 10. Absolutely unbelievable. I mean, you got one hell of a show going, Meckie, Dave. Great
Thank
stuff.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just called in for a couple of minutes just on MH17 because I think I got it figured out. We know that when they do these type of false flag operations, they try to kill a lot of birds with one stone. But I think what MH370 was, the Malaysian one that went missing, nobody could find, and that MH17, the one that just went, it seems to be their human cargo. If we remember, the first plane that went missing that was never found was full of all these brainiac engineers that had come up. Yeah.
Yep.
Who were they, David?
Okay, they worked for a company called Freescale, which worked on a number of military contracts, but one of those was to do with plane cloaking. And the problem that you can raise with this is that they had a number of patents and IP, intellectual property, that they risked the entire company by putting all of their employees on the same plane, right? Right, Hijacker?
Right. Yeah. That's it. That's it. You got the facts and the figures down. Right. Exactly. Well, this particular plane that went missing, and I think the same fate awaited it as far as it being flown to a location. It was full of 108 of the top microbiologist AIDS researchers in the world. And it's very scary because they've gamed all this out, and one of the reasons they're running the template of the illegal aliens coming over, and they're carrying all these diseases and lice and
in the US, yeah, the southern border.
Right. Well, I think they've gamed it out to where the only way they can deal with the heavily armed Americans is with the plague. I think if they say we try to go martial law, it's going to go racial. The white boys within the military and the law enforcement are going to pack up. It's going to go racial, and we're not going to win like that. And so it looks like the plague. And so they're taking all these people who know all about this kind of stuff, and I'll bet you 10 to 1 they met the same fate as the 360. Then they took the plane, the 370 plane, and put it in its place and went ahead and crashed it. In fact, there's footage on Live Link, which you can see just right after the plane crashed. Somebody got there, they broke out their cell phone, they walked through, and what you see is basically days old bodies. You're talking rigor mortis. You're talking bodies that bloated, that were split, not even like a wound.
The AP reported they were dead. And
yeah,
that
one of the rebel commanders, right.
The crews got on the ground, they were exposed to decomposing bodies. However, those members, the AIDS researchers, were also members of the Urso Institute, and that Urso Institute lists AIDS as a product on its site. AIDS is a product. It's a corporate product of the pharmaceutical industry. It's created by the use of a chemotherapeutic antibiotic called trimesulfate, Septra, Bactrim. This breaks down the immunity. This is the FDA and the Ethics Commission working against those that had its secrets and those that were programming human beings through television programming, radio broadcasting, to believe these things exist.
Wow. You know, I heard there's a patent for AIDS.
Absolutely. It's a corporate product of Congress.
Wow. So Hijacker, let me just understand what you're saying here, because if you're, I recognize that a sudden depressurization may, it causes you all sorts of injuries, but to say that the people have rigor and it had just crashed, that's a big call, and I hear the weight of what you're saying.
Yeah, well, you know, I was looking at it because I sent you a link, Bob. Right, Live Link, David, so you can see, and it's very graphic, folks. If you don't want to see really up close graphic dead people, then don't look. And anyways, I was looking at it just as my daughter she's a nurse, she just got back, and she came in and she says, "Dad, what are you looking at all that for? That's not good." In other words, and I said, "Well, no, this is the crash site." And I said, but take a look. I mean, you're a nurse. Something's wrong with these people. And she looked and she goes, "Oh, that's rigor. Those people have been dead for a while. They just didn't die." And I said, "Well, how do you know?" And then she showed me one of the last bodies, this eyeballs like 2 inches blown out. It's a really gruesome scene. He's got a gash on his leg where there's no blood, and you can see the flesh has just been decomposing. And she immediately recognized it right off the bat. And so it looks like if you're somebody, they're snatching cargoes intellectual property people that got, like Tammy said, they know these patents, they know microbiology, they're engineers. I mean, but this is really scary, and this is the reason why I wanted to call in, Dave.
When we started calling attention, when Jeff and I started calling attention to them using anthrax against the human populace, they killed off over 200 bioethicists in 2 years. That was prior to 2009 when the H1N1 came out. That's another dosing of anthrax. And they do it every time. When people start getting the idea that these things are commercial products of the same corporation, the United States Incorporated, they just start offing the upper levels.
Well, you know, in Australia, just to sorry to cut you off, guys, but in Australia, we've just seen the medical research, the CSIRO, Mickey, have its funding slashed.
Yeah,
absolutely slashed by the current government. And
look, it is clear that one of the agendas is a depopulation via viral means. It's the cheapest. It's by far the cheapest way to kill a lot of people. Okay, if you have to use warfare,
you got it, Mackie. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. If you use atomic weapons, that's very expensive. Even chemical weapons are quite expensive. With a viral weapon, and the only problem, of course, is that you can't control it. It might mutate, right? You've heard of mutation of viruses. But the point is that it is by far the cheapest way to weaponize a virus and then have it, in fact, be delivered by travelers. I mean, today we are global societies. It's by far the easiest and cheapest way. And again, if you look at our hypothesis, my contention is that we need to depopulate. Well, they believe we need to depopulate to at least 500 million by 2020. If we are at 8 billion by 2020, we could reach a critical point, which Dave and I have termed the awareness cascade. It could be wrong, don't know, but that's our hypothesis. So we will see a massive depopulation brought about by viral action. In my mind, it could be tuberculosis, it could be a mutation of the AIDS virus, it could be the bubonic or pneumonic plague. I really don't know. What I do know is that and this is not the first time microbiologists have been killed, by the way. If we go back a couple of years, a number of microbiologists were killed. That was during the anthrax scare, if you cast your mind back. And now the same thing has happened globally. I mean, in fact, a lot of research has been taken away globally from the medical establishment that was, essentially looking at tuberculosis, AIDS, and communicable viruses.
That's actually so true. The thing that I was worried about was there's events of the plague, about 7 of them a year in the US, but the one that scared me the most was the pneumonic plague that presented itself last week.
Yep.
And that's scary stuff. Go ahead, Tammy.
And that is always the use of anthrax. Different concentrations of anthrax have always been the bubonic plague, tuberculosis, black plague, H1N1, H1N5. Those are only different concentrations of anthrax. And it's in their own hands. With the anthrax hearings of 1999, they said they were dosing the populace prior to the 1970s. That's why they haven't received the death toll that they expected. Everybody's immune.
Wow.
You're right. You're right. That's in fact, that was one of the drawbacks. So now they have to go back to the drawing board and come up with something more lethal. You're correct.
Right, and they keep trying different concentrations, but it's not working. They're all the way up to H1N5. That's your body. What it produces is hydrogen 1 part 5 parts nitrogen when you're exposed to anthrax. And they still haven't gotten it down because they've built up that immunity. They've been dosing the human populace forever, and it's their downfall.
You got to give it to them. They are really evil geniuses. I mean, just take a look. They switch out the plane. They snatch the human cargo. They switch that out. They crash the plane right in Donetsk, right where there's a war zone, to help try to kick off a proxy war with Russia. Right before Gaza, right before the Israelis go into Gaza to suck up all the media oxygen, basically, so they can do what they want to do in Gaza. They do it on, this is something I heard, this is new. It happened on Isis' birthday. The goddess Isis out of Egypt, This goddess Isis' birthday, and I heard this from the Hawk. He's sort of the sidekick to Steve Quayle. He says that the 17th of July is the goddess Isis' birthday. So then they have a sacrifice. I mean, who knows how many other things are lined up? Go ahead, Dave.
It's one of those special dates, Mickey, that you were talking about. With these special dates there. But I'm just going to say that we also have another Revolution Radio host on the line. We have Steve Travesty. Welcome on board.
Hey, guys, how's it going? You never take calls, so I thought this was a great opportunity for me.
Welcome on board.
What's up?
We had to go into overtime for it. It's all good.
Yeah, it's great.
So what do you have to bring? What do you have to bring to the table?
I'm sorry. What?
What do you have to bring to the table, Steve?
Oh well, you know, it's just there's so much in thoughts. I had during your show earlier, I had sent you a couple of links of interest because I thought it was very interesting that these guys are that we had a lot of World Health Organization people. And there's some other little things that I noticed while they were talking about when they were talking about this incident and the news part of their predictive programming. They like to bring up other things that they want you to think about while thinking about this in reference to the past.
So it's associative.
I don't remember what year it happened, but they brought up a plane that went down in that was a North Korean plane in called and I forget what airliner it was, but the call number on it was 007, and they said this on. And I was thinking to myself, are they trying to tell us that MI6 brought down MH17?
Yeah, I got it here. In fact, you're right. it's crazy.
Such a order that they brought up this incident, which has nothing to do with anything.
1983, September 1. Korean Airlines flight 007, September 1st, 1983.
There you go. That was probably it. Right. So a 007, was the call number, and I'm really.
Yeah. Then the anniversary, Steve, of Flight 800. That was the 18th anniversary of that flight going down. So that was shot down by a missile. Oh, by the way, I did find footage of the plane. I was wrong. I figured they'd either used an EMP or they just remote controlled it and put it in the ground. But somebody actually got some footage of the plane coming down. He focuses in and out. He has a hard time keeping up because it's so far away. But then as it comes down closer and closer, you can see it's a jetliner. And it's going straight down, and you can see one of the engines is on fire. And what this tells me is that they blew their operation. Instead of blowing the thing up and then being depressurized and the whole compartment blowing up, they didn't use enough explosives in the one of the engines or whatever, or they didn't use enough C4. They screwed up so that the whole plane came straight down, literally almost intact. Well, it looked like it was intact the whole way with the one engine. It was on fire. I'll have to find that. Well, he focuses in and out, but
that's okay. I've got a single frame from that video footage, and it was actually from the 14th. It was from the 14th of July, not the 17th. And you'll be shocked to hear that looks like that was manufactured. It's not the same event. So
is that right?
Yeah. So this is what CNN was saying. Source: U.S. concludes plane shot down. I'm showing the video. I'm showing the image right now in the video feed. But what I'm gonna do is to prove the creation date of this. I'm going to details, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to put that into shot.
The thing is this, though, once it has been aired and once it becomes accepted, it'll become the accepted footage, even if you then try to disprove it. That's really the problem we have today. People have a very short attention span, and once the media has pumped out something, it doesn't matter what it is, how ridiculous, how inane, or how superfluous, or how obviously false, eventually it'll become the truth. And that's really something we're fighting against here. Sorry, go ahead.
That's exactly what Joseph Goebbels said, Hitler's propaganda minister. He said, if you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. And if you go right now to the Broadcasting Board of Governors, bbg.gov. It says on their About page that they've got full international control of all civil media. That's RT, that's ABC, that's CNN, and that's why we ask for the donations to keep Revolution Radio on the air, because we are not paid to bring you lies. We're not scripted. We're not going to be here blowing smoke up anybody's rectum.
Yep.
And we're still under for the month. We're only up 1204, and our goal is 1900. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but we do need those donations coming in to support Revolution Radio.
No,
I want to add weight to this. This is a fact, guys. Look, if you like to any of the information that we bring to you here, it is very important that you help run the station. Trust me, Dave, none of the other hosts are getting paid for this. It's our time, our research, and we are very grateful to have this platform to talk to you. Otherwise, we'd just be talking on some soapbox somewhere in the park. But this reaches more people. So if you can afford to give, please do.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the other thing that I brought up a little earlier, and I'm getting a bit of reflection back from you, Steve, so just mute for a sec, yeah?
Sure.
Okay, so one of the other things that I brought up, in the video, I've got a screenshot of the video, and everyone who knows Dabu7, have a look at Dabu77's YouTube channel. He's got the video footage showing the conversation with the general, and then also the creation date, which occurred the day before. So it's a little unusual to see this much sloppy work done with such a... It is much better, Steve, thanks. This kind of sloppy work done. We're used to it. But let's just say that people with their little triangle, they go from home to work to the shops and back again, that's all they want to know. Those people have a really hard time taking any of this in. There's a very few of us out there, isn't there, right, guys?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's true, Dave.
Yes and no. But listen, this whole operation, I knew the YouTubers were going to like a Amazon river full of piranhas. I knew they were going to rip apart this story, and if you want to see how successful the YouTube community and the internet has ripped apart this whole MH17 story, look no further than the Washington Post. Now, let me give you a word picture real quick, and then I'll shut up. Do you remember in the movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe?
Yep.
Okay, you remember the first battle scene in the Great Colosseum where Russell Crowe, the chariots come out and Russell Crowe takes command, and he forms up the lines. He's giving commands left and right. Of course, he's a great fighter and everything. You remember his manager? He sort of had a penthouse box. He was kind of looking out, and he was really enjoying watching Russell Crowe take apart these professional Roman soldiers, to the point to where his master or whatever, the old guy, Anthony Quinn or whoever he was like laughing like a drunk man, because Russell Crowe was just kicked their ass and killed them all, and he laughed. When I read that article in the Washington Post, where the Washington Post was actually attacking Dabu7, actually listing his YouTube channel, and doing an article, I had to laugh. I said, look at my man out there. He's just, for them to acknowledge, for the Washington Post to even acknowledge. Crazy stuff. Go ahead.
Post still considers Dabu7 a threat? That's
excellent.
Awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah, completely agree.
That's an honor.
See, but guys, that's
honored.
Yeah, that's the power we have now. We are living in the internet, I guess, in that respect was a big miscalculation on the elite's part, right? But this is the power individuals now have. We form communities, we form internet virtual communities, we bring our information forward that isn't filtered, that hasn't been put through the corporate mouthpiece. It is what it is, and a lot of people don't like it. But yeah, bringing up that he's now a threat or considered a threat by the mainstream media, that's awesome. We should all take heart. And maybe that'll boost our listenership as well. I think that's brilliant.
Doesn't it not say something about their control? I think that's
it's limited.
That's all it says. Yeah.
It's tiny. Look, there's only a few of them. I know we talk about the ominous them, which sounds like we're crazy, but trust me, they are there. And it's only a few of them. That's why all our power structures are in the shape of a pyramid. Only the top knows what's going on. Everybody else is compartmentalized, underneath in little boxes. They just know enough to do their job. The people on top, which is a handful of folk, they know what's going on, but there's only a handful of them. There's almost 8 billion, well, not quite yet, 7-something billion of us. That's a lot of us, and only a few of them,
I have a theory on MH17. If
please go ahead.
Right. Okay, so I think that MH17 is MH370.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think, and I have a loose way of connecting it because I don't have all the details, but there's certain things I remember when I was following the MH370 conspiracy based on a lot of very interesting information that was being put out at the time, which included the fact that people were seeing what looked exactly like MH370 in a hangar in an airport, and I think it was either Tel Aviv or Jerusalem.
Yeah, it's the sister plane.
Right.
Yeah.
I had heard information about that plane had been flying around various places, including an intercept by NATO Air Command or something like that in Europe. So I think that they finally needed to get rid of this thing, and that I think the reason why we've got bodies in rigor mortis already is because the bodies of people that they were not being sucked into the black budget universe were disposed of in this fashion, and then they had that bad boy fly out, from Amsterdam, and then found its purpose in this particular false flag situation, which, according to the conspiracy theories about MH370, is actually a better scenario because I was hearing the theory that they were going to put a nuke on this bad boy and go hit the cup with. So this is a much better situation.
I like that. No,
I
that's an excellent
disagree,
theory.
Steve. Wait a minute. I disagree. Them taking 108 of the top microbiologist AIDS researchers, all that intellectual property, and taking to underground bases and say, look, you're going to help us figure this out. You're going to come up with solutions. You're going to come up with bioweapons. This is a biological weapon. I'd rather them use just one nuke than have those kind of people under their control, Steve. This is scary stuff. Very scary.
It was more than that. It wasn't when you go to the Earth.
These are mainstream biology guys. They've got stuff. They don't need them. World Health Organization guys that go out there in the public. If worse came to worse, they were maybe going to come out with something like I was showing Dave a link earlier about the fact that pretty much viruses don't exist. They are a myth made up by the pharmacological companies to sell you vaccines. They don't exist. Koch's postulate.
It says that in the contracts. It says that in the contracts with the FDA and the Ethics Commission. They're using human beings as human test subjects.
Yes.
Can I just want to go around.
The oddest thing about these AIDS researchers, as I was saying before, on the Ursa Institute side, it lists AIDS as a product of a corporation. Now, those were not just AIDS researchers. One of them, the one, Mr. DeCuger, 32, he's a former European Commission diplomat. Not just an AIDS researcher. There was also a member of WHO on there, the World Health Organization. They're taking people out with knowledge of these contracts, with knowledge of the pharmaceutical industry, with knowledge of what Congress is actually doing. They're taking out the upper levels so that they can silence who knows what. And this is the game of politics. They do this every time. The Roman Senate just became Congress in 1648 when Rome restructured through the Treaty of Westphalia. It's the same Rome that it's always been. This is the same political game it's always been.
Do you know what? I'm just gonna go around the table real quick before we end this call because we've got stuff we have to do. But I think it's really important. I want each of you just to use 2 words I won't limit it to one, just 2 words to describe MH17. Tammy, you've got the floor. Just 2 words.
Confederacy.
Nice. Steve?
Yes.
2 words. How would you describe MH17 in 2 words?
Oh man. Fake.
Oh, I like that. Now, and Hijacker?
In 1 word, fake.
Fake, I like it. Hijacker, how about you?
Either political masterstroke or evil genius. One of those.
I'm hearing you. Mecky?
And I think Dave. I think Steve's going to take the server.
Awesome.
But listen, Dave, Mecky, you guys got one hell of a show. Just keep at it. I mean, you guys. I know what it takes to do shows, and you actually do. People out there listening to me, they actually do research. I mean, for what you're hearing, the product that they put on the air for those couple of hours, you can multiply that times 2 for both of them to be able to pull that kind of information together. That's why it's got that international quality. That's why it hit top 10. So, anyways, thanks so much for the show, Dave and Mecky. I know it's a lot of work. Go ahead.
Thanks so much.
Well, for me, it's initiation point, Dave. But what is it for you?
I smell false flag, so I'm going to go with false flag. I'd like to thank everyone for being part of the show today. Thank you very much for us going over time. Thank you to Justin Time for doing your programming. Justin, if you'd like to, I know you're listening, so if you'd like to start the ad roll, and we'll get to that in a second. Thank you to everyone who listens. Thank you to all the people who follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And message me.
And most importantly, don't forget to donate. Okay, before you before you sign off, Dave. Donations, guys. Donations, because this station is bringing you information that has not been filtered. Okay.
Yeah, so absolutely. Thank you so much, and thank you to all our listeners. As I've said, it's very important. If you have a topic that you'd like us to mention, go ahead and just email it through either Dave or Mecky at Shiny Side Out, and it'd be awesome.
Well, Dave, Mecky, the really talking about the current event and how you were breaking it down the first hour. That's really good stuff. That's hard hitting. It's fresh. It's live. It's like 3-4 days after this really big paradigm shift, and so that was really, really good stuff. And Mecky's intellectual stuff going back and laying things out, very informative too. But I really like the current event when you guys break things down as they're happening, and just give us more light. Go ahead.
Thanks so much. Cool. We're going to call it quits for today. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you next week for show 126. Take care, everyone.
All right. Good night, guys.